Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. We've helped thousands of people save time and make more money by improving their online stores. Check out patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for thousands of hours of full-length ad-free podcasts and coaching calls. Join our Facebook group with thousands of sellers making the transition from hobby to business. See you in the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today, we are going to address a live Q&A and also think about ideas to prepare ourselves for 2023. We've been doing sort of a mix of doom and gloom episodes talking about the recession and how to prepare for that. We've also gone over tons of best practices on how to improve your business, including last week's episode, which I'm going to repost with the 96 best ideas from 2022. So first topic from today from Dana is, what's the difference between a hobby and a business? And what's the difference between a job and a business? And a lot of questions roll in about like, what is considered small? Is this still a hobby? How do I make it more of a business? And I think earlier you said you can't sell a job, but you can sell a business.
Yeah, correct. And I don't know if you can sell an eBay quote unquote business that's centered around thrifted items and garage sale finds and flea market finds. So I think that, pretty much every aspect and portion of eBay is more in line with a job, not so much in line as a business. But, kind of like the way how you've run yours, you've always kind of run it pretty much out the gate more so as like a business because, you did bring on staff pretty early. You did start ordering product in pretty early. And I think a lot of people, they work from home by themselves, go out, find every single piece individually handpicked. And I think the difference there is like when you start having staff and maybe ordering product, like ordering recurring product, that's more so as a business. But I think it's very difficult to kind of look at eBay reselling as like a true conventional bona fide business. Because if that's the case, like you would be able to take the business to the market and then, sell it or get, a slight premium on whatever your earnings are. But, like we talk about pretty frequently, most people's eBay business is worth the actual cash value of the inventory that they have on hand. And the actual cash value is probably somewhere around $5 per item.
I agree with that. I also believe that the main difference between job and hobby and business for me, because as long as you are doing it for a profit, then the IRS considers you a business, not a hobby. So you're classified as a sole proprietorship by default. But if you are going to treat this like a professional, really the main thing that I look at is you do it at the same time every week or every day. That's the main thing, because if you do it at a different time every day, that to me is just a hobby. That's the main difference for me. Doing it whenever you want versus on an actual schedule. If you work part-time at a coffee shop, you don't make up your own hours. You just come when they need you.
Early when the first sentence that you said is that, we've been making optimistic and then kind of pessimistic topics back and forth. And I think that people look at their business in either way. I think it's difficult for people to look at them both ways. You've talked to a lot of people. What type of people do you think succeed more inside of this business? People that are always optimistic or people that are always pessimistic?
100% pessimistic. I mean, if you need money now, you will get your listing goal done. If you are going to be evicted, if you're escaping a bad partner, right? That's the most motivating one. People who are like, I have to do this so I can leave my partner, or I have to do this so I can support my family. They don't have any issues with it. And usually the people who are at their job and don't like their job, those people also kill it because they are moving, like they're working on their side hustle after they're done with work, and they're getting it done because they don't want that reality. The pain of their reality is way worse than the pain of listing.
Right. And then there's other people that, even if you try to expose the negativity or the downfall, every question is super optimistic, best case scenario, like unfollowable, like 100% they are going to succeed. even though there's holes in the plot and there's things that quite don't add up all the time. So I think that, looking at things, where some people may seem pessimistic, other people's may see as more realistic, because not every single day you're going to hit a home run or have a super successful day. More often than not, it's just going to be, just getting by and kind of stringing those better days together. And hopefully you end up having more better days than, unsuccessful days.
Yeah, I think that you want to start with a goal and then think of all the different things that can go wrong. And we've already gone over that ad nauseum, like really thinking about what can go wrong, what are the obstacles, what can come up in your day, what could distract you, and then just slowly eliminating those over time. And there's been numerous posts in the Facebook group in the last few days about people minimizing distractions, overcoming things one at a time. And that's just how you do it. Like, for me, I've just been removing, I know now for sure the only way to grow your business is by subtraction, removing steps, walking around. And I really think about that now. Whenever people at work suggest, hey, should we do this? Should we do that? And you just think about, maybe we don't do that at all. We can skip that process completely, or can we remove these steps? Adding steps always takes more time.
So how are you able to figure out if something needs to be subtracted or not subtracted?
I think you have to have that baseline of how long things normally take. And, as an example, let's say that you are I guess one example of this would be the measurements. If you're going to take pictures of measurements in the photos versus taking measurements on a separate table, next to it or before the process, there's more supplies required with getting that notebook set up, little table set up to do the measurements, versus just taking them in the photos. So you have to have a really good understanding of your process, and you have to know how long things take.
Do you think that before you start your business, or when your business is in the infancy stage, that you should already know what the end line of your business is? That way you could work backwards and get there. Because when I first started my business, even when I had 10,000, 20,000 items, and this is on record with the podcast, like years ago, I always said I wanted to list 250 and sell 250. And I knew my store size would be 50,000 items. I knew that's where my goal line was. But like, if my plan was to build a business that I can, ring the bell on the stock market or sell or, do something else with, I would have made different plans accordingly.
I think that's exactly right. And people default to just want to make a little extra money. That's the goal. The goal is, I want to make a little extra money. So when you back that up, that means sometimes you do your listing, sometimes you don't. You can be an everything seller. You can list whenever you want. You can do whatever you want, because make a little extra money that's your end line. Then you don't need very many structured plans.
It's not clear enough. That's not a clear enough goal, as I just want to make extra money.
Yeah.
The goal has to be much more clear in order to take the steps necessary to get there.
So right now I'm thinking about making a video about the different types of part-time seller. And I think this conversation is really good, because just trying to make some extra money, I want to sell some things I don't use. A lot of people start there, right? So the 0 to 1 listing person, they're in the, I have extra stuff at home, things I don't use, need to make some extra money. Then when you switch from 0 to 25 items in your store that you just found around the house, and you start sourcing, looking for things to sell, now it's like a decent extra amount of money, but it's not a part-time gig, in my opinion, until you start putting together a listing goal, and then also a route to go find things, and also a system for getting items up and going down. That's the beginning part of a side hustle. Maybe you don't know where you're going to end up yet at this stage, but once you have route, photography station, shipping station, you have some systems starting to brew, I think you can kind of see how far you want to take it.
I definitely agree with that.
It's hard right away to come up with, I'd like to do $800,000 a year and a third profit.
I don't know. I think that like if you tell me that, I know how to do it.
Yeah.
But like without that goal, you're just out there in the wind.
Yeah.
Because if anyone says, I want to make $800,000 profit, what do I need to do? We need to figure out what your average profit per item is. And then we need to figure out how big your store needs to be. And then figure out how many items you need to list to get to a store size that large. And then that will give you the desired sales and profit that you want to have. But until you know where you want to go, you're really just driving, and you may not be driving in the right direction.
I remember early on, one of your original goals was $10,000 a month gross. And you were able to back that idea up into the next actionable things you need to do and how many items you have to list. And you can figure that out.
Sure. But if you never have the goal, like you're saying, I just want to make extra money. And if that was my goal always, I just want to make extra money.
Yeah.
There's no way I would be in the position that I am right now. It's not actionable enough.
It's not actionable enough. That's right.
It's not, because if you want to make $10,000 gross, you need to know how many items you need to sell, how many items you need to list. And then from there, you can map out your schedule and map out your day, because you know how long listing is going to take, how long shipping is going to take, how long sourcing is going to take, how long photography is going to take. But if you don't know that, then you're just waking up every single day and just doing stuff rather than, pointing yourself towards a goal.
This is great, because we talked recently about making bigger goals, but maybe it's twofold. You have to make a bigger goal and you need a more specific goal. Making extra money is so vague, right? So you need to start with like maybe make an extra $500 a month profit, or an extra $500 a week profit, or plenty of people in the group have a goal of $500 a day profit. So this type of specific goal really helps clear up what you're doing each day.
And all of those people who have those goals, they all do different things from everybody else. The person who wants $500 a day does certain tasks. The person who wants $5,000 a day does certain tasks. The person that wants $5 million a day does certain tasks. And the person doing $50 a day will never do $5 million a day if they do $50 a day tasks.
Yeah, it definitely aligns everything when you start to get specific and start thinking bigger. Cindy is saying, is there a difference between realistic and pessimism, or being realistic and being pessimistic? And I think that definitely there's a difference. Being realistic is just the status quo. What are your actual parameters and constraints? And earlier this morning, we were talking about some constraints, and I feel like constraints help a lot too, because on the other side of the goal, you need to decide what type of investment you want to make into this business. How many hours are you going to do per week? How much capital are you going to put into it, if any? Are you only going to grow from profits? There's the more constraints, the easier it is to put together a plan. And I think that a lot of people see constraints as pessimistic or negative, but they're realistic, in my opinion.
I think that I have a good grasp on like a realistic output, but I do also think that I am pessimistic, because even you've said it before. You said that I always look at things from like a negative standpoint, like why won't this item sell?
Yeah.
Why won't this business succeed? And when you look at it like that, you can solve the problem. But like if you look at an item and go, oh, this is going to sell great regardless, that's not necessarily the truth. If you look at your business and go, this business is going to perform awesome regardless, that's not necessarily the truth. And, you're just floating on dreams and, false outlook. But if you really look at the business for what it is, real and, pessimistic, if you want to call it that, you could start to identify the issues, identify the problems. And, just like when people post their photo setups and they ask, like, what do you think about the background? And instead of saying the item is going to sell, my default answer is always, this item will not sell because of this background.
Right.
And like that throws people for a loop. But by saying like, it's not going to sell, it has nothing to do with the color background. It has to do with the item.
Versus it will sell with that.
Right. But like this item, regardless of background, is going to sell because it's a quality item. Like if you put, you know, a pile of garbage on a beautiful background, it doesn't matter what background you have. If you put an iPhone literally on a pile of garbage, it will still sell.
It reminds me of that song, Why Can't We Not Be Sober? Because it's just, it kind of works. Like, I don't want to not be not successful. It's kind of easier to understand what that means than I want to be successful. Because you can look at the things that you should not do or stay away from, and it will help you build the right plan.
Absolutely. And I think like that is a more realistic outlook rather than, you know, this is 100% going to work no matter what.
Yeah, Joe, that was a Tool reference.
Wool shirts are a bolo. Those things sell great.
Michelle is asking, how do you remove family, which is arguably the biggest distraction from our businesses? And since I've announced I'm having another baby, what am I going to do as my life is more complicated? Well, I think I'm really good at accepting my reality. So I've signed up for certain family obligations. I think it makes it easier. Because as long as you know what expectation you have with your family, it's easier. It's when you don't know, like I don't know if I could deal with unexpected family members showing up all the time. I don't know. I mean, I would have to just set a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could deal with that.
It like you said, it's all about expectations, and the expectation for me is I need to take care of the well-being of my family and keep their best interests of top priority. And then after that, you know, the extended family or whatever kind of extracurricular activities you want to throw. But if the health and well-being of my immediate family is ultimately number one, then by default, that makes the business a very top priority over people that can throw a curveball and derail me from what the ultimate mission is. So outside of, you know, very immediate family, everything else comes after the business. So everything inside the business needs to get done first, and then we can explore those extracurricular activities.
Danny says there's the jump between extra money and part-time money and full-time money are all huge jumps. I mean, 100%. And then from full-time money to money for employees is another huge jump, because I was just doing the math on this. This is like a secret. So thank you guys for listening to us today. If you're running an eBay business by yourself with the right kinds of margins, you make 50 cents out of every dollar profit minimum. If you're like, after looking at all the math and what you suggest, which is like 5 into 30, minimum 5 into 20 plus shipping, that model, 50% of the money coming in is profit. And that's really healthy. A lot of things can go wrong. You have money to grow. You have a lot of options. Each time you jump, though, because the extra money stage where you sell stuff that you have around the house, that's like 100% profit minus the shipping and the fees. Then from that to part-time, each jump, the margins shrink.
Yeah, absolutely. And with each jump, the margins shrink and more work becomes on your plate. So, you know, when you start going full time, you need to do more work with smaller margin. When you get employees, you need to do more work with smaller margin, because every single time your listing goal increases, you have to cast a wider net when sourcing, and probably, you know, ultimately get lesser average selling price items. So, you know, no longer are you in the $30 average sale price. You might find yourself, you know, in the $18 average sale price as your listing goal becomes much more aggressive. And it's going to take, you know, double the work really to get the same amount of, you know, gross income, because now you've acquired all of these expenses. You know, you have a storage unit, maybe you have a helper, a larger carrying cost, and all of that stuff adds up, where for most people, they might be at their best capacity at 30 listings a day from home and get it done in a couple of hours every single day. That's the most profitable stage right there. After that, your profitability per item does dwindle.
You mean after you leave home?
Over 30 items a day, I believe.
Yeah.
Because over 30 items a day, now you're talking 50 a day. Now you're talking, in most scenarios, getting a storage unit, maybe getting a helper to help you ship and pack, spending a lot more time on the road, vehicle wear and tear, a lot more sourcing, a lot more thrifting. After that 30 a day bump, you kind of have to start, putting a plan into place, and that plan costs money.
30 a day at home is the craziest model on earth of any small business.
Yeah, it's a great model.
At that stage, you are making six figures with very, very, very low risk.
It's half day.
And a half day. Yeah. Really
half day, six figures. If you really get after it, it's half day, 6 figures.
Man, and then the least risk driving, it's all at home, all right there. You can start working immediately. You could even have a post office pickup at that point.
Yep.
The least gas, the least expenses.
Yep. That is a beautiful place to be, and probably where most people should sit for the rest of their life.
Amazing. Brandon is saying he just got a warehouse to move the business away from the house. It is so quiet that he's surprised when his wife shows up. Yeah, all these stages require a tremendous amount of planning. I just think that it's so different moving from home to storage unit to warehouse. I haven't even made that jump yet. It's so big, it's so different.
It's really big because now you're talking about signing 5-year leases. You're talking about the responsibility of other people that work for you. You have to make sure they have work to do every single day. You have to make sure nothing within the supply chain inside of your business and outside of your business gets jammed up, because it can, dramatically set you back, and, maybe you never even recover from it. So it takes a lot of planning, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort to make, an eBay business on a large scale work every single day.
I think it's important also, when you guys are doing your planning, to plan for sort of some margin. So when Tech says that he was planning on selling 250 a day with 50,000 items, that's a 0.5% sell-through rate. But in order to land there, you don't pick up items that sell through 0.5%. That's including everything. You still have items that sell the same day you list them.
Right. But I had the foresight to know that with such a large listing goal, it's impossible for me to get 30-day sell-through items, 250 of them every single day for the entire year. That's right. So I knew that had to expand to 3 months or 6 months. And even now, I still sell through my store 2 almost 3 times every single year. So I carry 50,000 items, but I'm going to sell well over 100,000 items. So the store cycles through, but it does take time. There is a carrying cost involved in it. And I knew that from back then, that the quality of the item and the quality of the brand was going to diminish as the listing goal became more and more aggressive. And that is a cost that needs to be calculated inside of the business. If I could, sell my whole store through every 30 days, it would be a beautiful thing. But in the clothing category, in the niche, that's very, very extremely difficult to do. So you have to make all of those calculations, because that is an expense along with all the other expenses involved. So, the longer you can hold out and keep like a top-notch brand list and, flaws to a minimum or non-existent, the faster your items are going to sell through, and then you can decrease that carrying cost.
There's also the limitation of your physical geography. Getting more than $30, $15 or $20 profit items a day is very hard. It's going to require a lot of sourcing. So from my experience, it's almost like half a day of sourcing is maybe like 50 to 100 pieces that match the super duper awesome pieces. So to reach more than 30 a day, you'd have to source almost every day of only the bangers, only the heat, only like awesome stuff. I don't know. You'd have to source a lot to find it.
You have to source a lot, and then you have to have, an A1 ultimate Rolodex where you're not passing on items that fit your criteria, because every single time you do that, that adds another stop or 2 or 3 stops every single day. And you already are hitting a lot of stores on a daily basis. So, if your Rolodex is there and you're not passing on those items that, hit the metric that you need, you're turning a 5-day route into an 8-day route. And that becomes much more difficult to do.
Michelle's saying she doesn't think people plan, they jump to the next level too fast. They see you at the warehouse and don't see all the little steps taken.
That's very true. And, the stuff that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, I've already begun the planning to that, and we're 19 months away from it. So like every single portion of the business needs to be extremely planned and extremely calculated if you want to do it in a successful manner, where I'm planning 2 years ahead what I'm going to do and where I'm going to be with the eBay business. And I did that 2 years ago and 2 years before that.
I think people just underestimate how many moving parts there are. Like even 10 more a day is 70 more a week. And that's literally different for every single part of your business.
Yeah, it's almost 4,000 a year. You're talking a lot of money, a lot of commitment, a lot of time, just at 10 a day. And, when people want to go from 20 to 70, 20 to 60, it's a complete recipe for disaster. And someone wrote me today and they go, you and Chris, you give out a lot of advice. Next year is going to be very difficult, and a lot of people are going to go off the tracks. So that means 2024, you got to get everybody back straight. And I said, no, I don't. I've already told everybody everything that they need to know. If you're off track in 2024 because you had a miserable 2023 because you're doing a bunch of ridiculous stuff, it's not my problem. That's your problem. And if you're out of business or don't make it to 2024, that's just the way life works. So, there's no reason or no excuse for people not to have like a successful blueprint to operate this. I just think people lack planning. Maybe they just, copy things just for the opportunity of copying and never kind of learn what exactly is going on or why people do certain things. And like, I believe I have set forth like a pretty successful blueprint on how to do this. And like, if people want to stray away or choose bits and pieces and then wonder why the results aren't the same, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, so I was told by eBay that the average full-time reseller that they've surveyed through, because they send out the email, are you guys full-time eBay sellers? And eBay has the data. So the people who answered, yes, I am a full-time reseller, they're doing $2,000 a month gross. Okay, so when you back that up, it's like 3 sales a day. It's what somebody is doing full time. So the difference between, so this is going to be one of those examples where I think it's really clear. If you were to ask what makes an eBay seller successful versus what makes them not successful, and then not doing that, that's an easier way to approach this problem, because 3 a day sales full time means that 80-90% of your day is wasted.
So what do you think that data is based on? Is it based on $500 a week in sales to get to $2,000 a month? Is it based on time spent? Because like $2,000 for some people, you could do $2,000 in a half day. Does that mean you're full time?
You're more productive.
Spending full-time effort 40 hours a week to get three sales a day.
3 sales a day in 8 hours is the normal output for a full-time reseller.
So what are the causes of that? Not streamline, too much TV during the workday, not desirable items, not great listings. The list goes on and on.
I think if you were to ask me what I think most resellers are doing, I think that probably realistically, even though they're full-time, new listings are only hitting the website maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And it's between 5 and 10 new listings a few times a week versus, and if you think about the difference between 5 to 10 or 0 to 10 listings a few times a week versus 5 a day, I take the 5 a day person all day.
Sure.
5 a day person is totally different.
Sure. But again, like how is 10 listings 3 times a week? What are they doing for the other 4 days? How is that going to be considered full time? Does eBay want the idea of a full-time seller to be $2,000 a month? Is that better?
I mean, you would think if eBay put up a little dashboard and it said, hello, user number 469, your items normally take 6 years to sell. We would prefer it to take less time than that. So can you go through and adjust? We've noticed that there's 692 errors on your listings. Please go back and fix them.
Instead, they have in the terms of service that they'll just remove your listing if it doesn't perform.
Yeah, they in the terms of use, it says they'll basically move your listings at the bottom of search.
Or remove it entirely from the platform. They'll just take it down if it doesn't perform. So I don't know. I think part of me thinks eBay wants to put that out as because $2,000 to a lot of people is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that that's gross sales. And we all know $2,000 net after your cost of goods, that's not profitable over the course of 1 month.
No.
But I think that's good marketing by saying the average eBay seller does $2,000 a month. But I don't think if we took a poll of the group, I think that we are way above $2,000 a month.
So I'm thinking, since if you reverse that all out, it's between $4 to $8 an hour. So people are making, let's just call it $6 an hour working on eBay. Is it worth it to them because they now get to do whatever they want on whatever schedule, work whenever you want? And so now it's officially worth it. You've made it. You work for yourself and you make your own schedule.
I'd rather go work at Dollar General. Because at least at 5 o'clock, you give the peace sign. If that place burns down, you just get transferred to the next store. It doesn't matter. There's no obligation. That thing gets burned down, you put in for a transfer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. Brandon is saying, you don't have to think. I mean, it's crossed my mind probably once a month. Should I go back and get a job and not have to worry about any of this overhead? So one of my girls, she's like, I want to be a full-time thrifter reseller. I'm like, okay, let's look at what you have. She's like, right now I have 200 items in my store. And I love to go to the thrift store and I pick up about 50 items each time I go, but I'm only listing 1 to 3 items a day. So I can only go shopping once or twice a month. And I spend the rest of my month listing. And the 200 items, she has a great sell-through rate, 50 to 100 a month sell. Good amount of items sell, but the difference between that and supporting yourself, there's a long road between that and supporting yourself.
Thank you for listening to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, please check us out at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for all information, all our full-length episodes, over thousands of hours of coaching, and our Facebook mentorship group, which is $35 per month, just about $1 a day to help you get to the next level. We appreciate you guys. See you next time.